I brought in 60% of our revenue last quarter, but when I asked about the $50,000 bonus I was promised, my boss gave me a new job title, Support Liaison, which is a fancy way of saying sit down, shut up, and don't make waves. 3 weeks earlier, I was walking into the 6th floor conference room in my favorite navy blazer, a notebook in hand, and my heart pounding with quiet anticipation. The end of quarter review was routine, except this time, I had something to ask. My name is Brooke, and I'd spent the last 7 years growing Kettering & Fox's client base from scraps to 7-figure contracts. My work wasn't just documented, it was celebrated for years. I led the biggest accounts, solved the ugliest problems, and coached entire teams through chaos. The bonus? It wasn't just a hope, it had been discussed, acknowledged, and unofficially confirmed. I'd earned it. The new boss, Trent, was a polished man with slicked back hair and sharp suits that smelled like cologne and control. He joined the company 2 months ago and had barely spoken to me since. Still, I believed the numbers would speak for themselves. I waited until the performance slides wrapped. Then I leaned in, calm but clear. I wanted to quickly revisit the $50,000 performance bonus we discussed before the quarter closed. I said, the target was exceeded by 38%. Trent glanced down at his iPad, then gave a light chuckle. Yes. Well, Brooke, bonuses aren't really about numbers anymore. My smile froze. He continued, they're about culture, about attitude, about flexibility. We're looking to reward people who align with that. Let's shift our focus to next year's pipeline. That was it. No thanks. No rebuttal. Just a full-body dismissal in 3 polished sentences. I sat there, nodding slowly, heart sinking like an anchor. In that moment, I wasn't sure what stunned me more, the words themselves, or how easily someone who didn't know me could decide I didn't matter. The next morning, I opened my inbox like I always did, coffee in one hand, to-do list in the other. The subject line stopped me cold. Updated role and compensation package. Effective immediately. My chest tightened. I clicked. 3 paragraphs in cold. Corporate language. No greeting. No signature from Trent. Just people operations. Cuito. As part of our ongoing structural realignment, your role has been revised to support liaison, reporting to the Director of Internal Services. Your salary will be adjusted to reflect this transition. Effective immediately. Please refrain from discussing this change externally, including with clients, as noted in the compliance agreement attached. There it was, plain, brutal, and unmistakably intentional. A 30% pay cut, a made-up title that had never existed. No more client-facing duties, no meetings, no leadership responsibilities. Support liaison? I'd built 6 client systems, led quarterly negotiations, handled international escalations, and now I was support? I read it again, slower this time, hoping I'd misunderstood. But no, it was clear. I wasn't being transitioned, I was being erased. The line that truly hit me was buried in the last sentence. Any violation of this confidentiality clause may result in further disciplinary action. Ha! That's when I realized this wasn't just a demotion. It was a gag order, a silencing. They wanted me invisible. I sat still for a long time. I didn't cry. Not yet. But something hollow cracked open in my chest. The office around me buzzed with the usual morning hum. Printers, polite greetings, footsteps on tile. No one looked at me. No one said a word. I opened the attached compliance document. It was 11 pages long, somewhere near the bottom. In fine legalese was the line, "Employee agrees not to discuss, share, or imply any details of role adjustment, compensation, or rationale with external parties, including but not limited to clients, vendors, or strategic partners." They didn't just take away my seat at the table, they padlocked the door behind me. I stood up, walked to the restroom, locked the stall, and finally let myself exhale. It wasn't the pay cut. It wasn't even the title. It was the quiet, surgical way they did it, like removing a tumor and hoping the body wouldn't notice. But I noticed. And deep down, a second voice started whispering beneath the pain, a voice I hadn't heard in a while. You're not finished. They don't get to write the last line. Monday came, but it felt like walking into a different company. No one said it outright. No one had to. The air told the story. I arrived at 8:15 sharp, the same time I always had. But my keycard no longer opened the glass double doors near the client conference wing. I had to enter through the side. My new workspace was a lonely desk tucked between two empty cubicles near the printer, a spot previously reserved for interns. A phone, a half-used notepad, and a monitor blinking "Login expired." That was it. No one greeted me, not Clara from legal, who once invited me to her baby shower, not James, who I mentored for 2 years, not even Jenna, especially not Jenna. We used to have lunch together 3 times a week, talked about everything, from contract loopholes to family stuff. She was there when I hit my 5-year anniversary. She knew about the bonus. She said I deserved it. Now? She passed me in the hallway near the break room, coffee in hand. I caught her eyes. She paused, just for a split second. Then she lowered her gaze and kept walking. That one small act stung worse than the pay cut. I sat at my desk and stared at my hands for a long while. No calendar invites, no emails, not even a ping from IT. It wasn't a demotion. It was exile at 11:30. A junior associate from marketing, Rachel, walked by. She was young, bright-eyed, the kind of person who still believed in office birthday cakes and open-door policies. She slowed as she passed me, hesitated, and then said under her breath, "I'm sorry." I looked up. "What?" She glanced around and leaned in. "I probably shouldn't say anything, but," she whispered, "Trent said you weren't a cultural fit. Something about needing people who support the new obedience-first approach." Obedience first? I couldn't help it. I gave a small, incredulous laugh. Rachel looked nervous. "He told the team you had control issues, that you challenged leadership too much." I thanked her quietly. She looked like she regretted saying anything at all, and she walked off in a rush. Control issues. It was funny, in a bitter kind of way, all this time. I thought the company valued strategy, solutions, leadership. Turns out, what they really wanted was silence. I wasn't just demoted. I was being rewritten. My story, my value, was being distorted while everyone nodded along, too afraid to speak. And that, more than anything, felt like betrayal. But something else stirred inside me that afternoon. Not rage, not even sadness. Clarity. They wanted silence? Fine. But they'd never survive mine. By the end of my first week in the new role, if you could even call it that, I started noticing something strange in the company's internal communications. Emails I used to be CC'd on never made it to my inbox. Project threads I had started disappeared from my archived folders. My name was slowly vanishing, pixel by pixel. Then came Friday morning. I was sipping lukewarm coffee, half distracted by the flickering overhead light above my desk, when an internal newsletter popped into my inbox. Subject: Quarterly Recognition Highlights. Leadership in action for a second. My chest fluttered. Some naive part of me still clung to the belief that maybe someone had seen through the fog, that maybe I hadn't been completely erased. I clicked it open. There it was, front and center. Congratulations to Marcus Tan, our newest recipient of the leadership bonus for Q3 Performance Excellence. Underneath was a paragraph of praise. Marcus spearheaded the multi-market integration campaign, showing outstanding initiative, cross-functional coordination, and client satisfaction metrics exceeding 98%. My eyes froze on one word: multi-market integration. That was my campaign. I built that system from scratch. I coordinated 12 departments across 5 regions, streamlined the data model, and led every client-facing call. I fought for that client when they nearly walked after the first rollout glitch. Marcus? He shadowed 2 calls. He wasn't even copied on the launch emails. Now he was the face of it. I opened our shared project drive. My name had been scrubbed from every document header. Internal memos had been reattributed. The final strategy deck, the one I'd stayed in the office past midnight to finish, had his initials stamped at the footer. It wasn't just credit theft, it was calculated removal. But what came next hit harder than anything else. A second email, this time from People Operations. It was a team spotlight with details about Marcus's bonus, $50,000, awarded for his leadership during a high-impact transition quarter. I stared at the number, $50,000. The exact figure I had asked about, the exact amount I was told didn't align with current cultural values. The money they claimed wasn't about numbers, but attitude. Bitterness curled in my stomach, slow and acidic. So that was the game. Strip me of title, silence me, then give my work and my reward to someone more obedient, someone easier to mold, someone who played along. I wasn't just replaced, I was rewritten out of my own history. Around me, the office carried on as if nothing had changed. Laughter in the hallway, the ding of elevators, a birthday card circulating near reception. But I sat in silence, fists clenched under the desk, my screen glowing with the face of a man who had signed his name across my legacy. And all I could think was, "You took my bonus. You took my name. But you have no idea what you've awakened." That weekend, I avoided my inbox. I turned off notifications, silenced my work phone, and tried, unsuccessfully, to forget the image of Marcus grinning beneath the words leadership bonus. My stomach still twisted every time I thought about it. Every time I imagined the applause he probably received in a room I was no longer allowed to enter. By Sunday afternoon, I gave in. Not to work. To distraction. I opened my personal laptop, logged into LinkedIn for the first time in weeks, and scrolled aimlessly. Job posts, corporate quotes, humble brags about promotions. I was about to close the tab when a message pinged in the corner of the screen. Ryan Elridge Brooke, we missed you in last week's review. Everything okay on your end? I stared at the name. Frozen. My heart did something between a jolt and a drop. Ryan. We went to university together, spent hours in the campus library mapping out mock business plans and caffeine-fueled case studies. He was sharp, driven, annoyingly optimistic. Now he was the vice president of strategic partnerships at Northwood Tech, one of our biggest clients, one of my clients. We hadn't spoken directly in months, just project updates and scheduled reviews. But he always greeted me with a genuine warmth most execs couldn't fake if they tried. And now, he was checking in, I typed, erased, retyped, then finally replied, "Hi Ryan, thanks for reaching out. I've been pulled off the account. Actually, internal restructuring. Didn't want to make waves." 3 little lies in one polite sentence. Seconds later, the typing bubble appeared. What kind of restructuring takes their lead off $1 million integration? That account runs through your brain. We built that roadmap together. I hesitated, then exhaled and told him the truth, without venting, without rage. I told him about the demotion, the cut in pay, the support role. I didn't mention Marcus by name, but I described the project handoff, the newsletter, the bonus. He didn't reply right away. 10 minutes passed, then 15, and then, "I'm sorry, that's insane. Let's talk." Tonight. 3 words, plain and direct. But something shifted inside me when I read them. The wall of numbness that had built up over the past few weeks cracked, just enough to let something flicker through. Hope. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. I typed back, "Sure. After 8, okay?" He responded with a thumbs up and a line that stayed with me all night. "I've been thinking about something for a while. This just confirms it." I didn't know what he meant. Not yet. But for the first time in weeks. I didn't feel like I was falling alone. Someone saw what they did to me. And maybe, just maybe, someone was ready to do something about it. The call with Ryan lasted 43 minutes. He didn't waste time. After the small talk faded, his voice took on a tone I'd only heard during high-stakes negotiations. "I won't dance around this. Brooke, if you leave Kettering and Fox, Northwood is ready to move the entire account under your name. Direct consulting. No middlemen." I sat in stunned silence. He continued, calm but serious. "You already know the system better than anyone. You wrote half the protocols we still follow. I just need to clear it with procurement. And legal will draft something clean. Full independence. Full control." I gripped the edge of my kitchen counter. It should have been exhilarating. Instead, I felt paralyzed. Me? Leave the company I spent 8 years building from the inside out? Start from zero? No infrastructure? No benefits? No safety net? I tried to find my voice. "I appreciate it. Ryan, I really do. But that's a big leap." "You're not leaping alone," he said. "You'd be bringing clients who already trust you, and I'll personally guarantee year 1 support from our side." I mumbled a thank you, told him I'd think it over, then ended the call. I didn't sleep all night. My thoughts tangled: fear, resentment, hunger for justice, and the ghost of loyalty I wasn't sure still belonged to anyone. By 7:02 the next morning, I was walking down Northview Avenue in a pair of soaked sneakers and a thin beige trench coat. It had started raining somewhere between blocks 3 and 4, and I didn't bother opening my umbrella. The weight in my chest needed the cold. I wasn't going to the office. I was just walking, letting my legs guide me, unsure where I was headed until I looked up and saw it. The glass facade of Kettering and Fox rising out of the drizzle like a memory I hadn't asked to see. I stood across the street from the building I'd given a third of my life to. Inside those walls, I'd celebrated my first promotion, fought to save a crumbling client, trained juniors who now sat in the chairs I was pushed out of. Now, I couldn't even get past the front desk without clearance. The rain picked up. I closed my eyes, let it soak my lashes, my sleeves, the hem of my skirt. A black town car rolled past. Its headlights lit up my reflection in the window across from me. I didn't look like someone starting over. I looked like someone ready to disappear. And maybe that was the point. I took out my phone, my fingers trembling from cold and fear, and typed one sentence. "I'm in." Seconds later, Ryan replied, "I'll start paperwork today. You won't regret this." I slid the phone back into my pocket, took a shaky breath, and turned away from the building. I didn't say goodbye, didn't need to. Sometimes, closure doesn't come with a slammed door. Sometimes it comes standing in the rain, soaked, shivering, but free. At 6:30 in the morning, the world was still asleep. The streets were damp from the night's rain, and the sky hadn't yet decided whether it wanted to be gray or blue. I sat at my dining table, lit only by the soft yellow glow of the hanging lamp above me, staring at the email I'd rewritten 3 times. Subject: Notice of Resignation. Effective immediately. To Human Resources. Kettering and Fox Consulting. That was it. No dramatic declarations. No CCing management or former mentors. No explanation. No negotiation. Just a clean, simple farewell. I read it over one last time. After 8 years with Kettering and Fox, I am officially resigning from my position, effective immediately. I'm grateful for the challenges, the growth, and the relationships built along the way. Wishing you continued success. I hovered over the send button for 3 long breaths, then clicked. Done. No alarm bells went off. No sudden regret crashed over me. Just silence. A deep, clean silence. I pushed the laptop away and wrapped my hands around a mug of black coffee. No creamer, no sugar, just bitter and grounding. I watched the steam swirl like a quiet celebration. It didn't feel like losing something. It felt like releasing it. A small ping interrupted my thoughts. My personal phone, not my work one. It was a text from an old number I hadn't heard from in weeks. I tapped the screen. Jenna. I saw the exit note. I'm sorry, Brooke. I should have said something when it happened. I was scared. I didn't want to be next. But I want you to know, I'm proud of you, truly. I stared at her message for a long time. We hadn't spoken since the day she passed me in the hallway and lowered her eyes. I thought that silence had erased everything we were. But it hadn't. There, in just a few lines, was the thing I didn't know I'd needed. Acknowledgement. Not from the company. From a friend who had once known my worth. I typed a simple reply. Thank you. That means more than you know. And it did. I didn't need validation from a company that had rewritten my story. I didn't need an apology from the boss who stripped my name from my work. What I needed, what I'd quietly hoped for, was a sign that my presence had mattered to someone. And now I had it. I stood, poured the rest of the coffee down the sink, and watched the final drip disappear. There was nothing left here for me, outside. The sun finally broke through the clouds, soft, hesitant light sliding across the pavement. I took a breath and grabbed my coat. Today, I wasn't walking into the office. I was walking forward, without anger, without fear. And, for the first time in a long while, without looking back, the LLC was officially registered at 8:02 in the morning on a Wednesday. The name? Brooke Stratton Consulting. No Latin words, no clever acronyms, just me. I wasn't trying to sound bigger than I was. I just wanted it to be real. Honest. Mine. Ryan's team worked like a well-oiled machine, by noon. I had a consulting agreement in hand, reviewed and approved by Northwood's legal department, full independence, no non-compete complications, no NDA restrictions. He even added a line that made me laugh out loud. Consultant has sole discretion over all strategic decisions. For the first time in months, I felt like I was breathing real air again. But excitement came with a twin. Nerves. I wasn't just stepping out of a building. I was stepping into the unknown with no payroll system, no IT department, no administrative safety net. My office was my dining table. My first call was done over a Bluetooth headset I borrowed from a friend, and my onboarding materials were cobbled together in Google Docs. Still, I couldn't stop smiling. Each task felt like I was reclaiming something. Every time I clicked Save, I wasn't just building a file, I was rebuilding myself. Then something unexpected happened. I was replying to Ryan's budget outline when another email came in. The subject line was short. Need your help. The name made me pause. Angela Delgado, senior manager at Glovex, the client I'd handled for 3 years before Trent yanked the account from me. We hadn't spoken since the transition. I assumed they'd moved on. I opened it. Hey, Brooke, word got around about your new venture. We've been struggling with the rollout since you left. Internal teams lost. Timelines slipping. You know how it is. Bottom line, if Brooke's leading, we'll follow. Let me know if you're open to jumping back in. Even in a consulting capacity, we trust you more than the people we're paying right now. My breath caught. I hadn't told anyone outside of Ryan. I hadn't posted anything. No launch announcement, no website, no new beginnings post with a sunset background. And still, they found me. It wasn't pity. It wasn't sympathy. It was trust. Earned. Remembered. And now, returned. I read the email again, letting the words sink in like warm water over frozen skin. Then I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling, and let myself feel it. Not just relief, not just pride, hope, real, fluttering hope, and fear, because now I had to live up to it. I replied with a calmness I didn't quite feel yet. Would love to reconnect. Let's set up time this week. Then I put my phone down and just sat there, trembling slightly, smiling fully. This wasn't luck. It wasn't revenge. It was something better. This was proof that sometimes, when you walk away with nothing, you still carry everything that ever mattered. It started with a phone call from someone I hadn't heard from in months. Clara, from legal. She didn't call to catch up. She didn't even sound comfortable saying my name. Hey, Brooke. Just wanted to give you a heads up. It's chaos over here. I leaned back in my chair, watching the light spill across the floor of my apartment-turned-office. Chaos? 3 clients pulled their contracts in the last 10 days. Big ones. Glovix, Northwood, and now Revtel. I stayed quiet. Trent's, well, he's technically still CEO, but the board asked him to take a personal leave of absence, indefinitely. She paused, waiting for a reaction. I gave her the only one I had left. I see. The silence on her end stretched. Then she added, more softly, I think they finally realized who was holding the ship together. She didn't have to say it. I knew. It wasn't about revenge. Not anymore. It was about truth catching up. Clients don't leave because of budget issues. They leave when trust evaporates. And trust had a name, mine, after we hung up. I didn't celebrate. I didn't raise a glass or cue a playlist of empowerment anthems. I just stared out the window, watching people walk by below, their lives untouched by the storm unraveling behind corporate walls. It was strangely peaceful. That afternoon, another email came in, this time from an unfamiliar address. The subject line, Strategic Opportunity, Board Request. I opened it. A partner from the Kettering and Fox Board of Directors had reached out personally. He used phrases like realignment strategy, value-based leadership, and rebuilding bridges with legacy clients. The email closed with a polite invitation to meet. We'd love to discuss a potential return or partnership structure with you. We believe your insight is critical to restoring client confidence. I read it twice. Then I hit reply and typed exactly 1 sentence. Too late. I only build forward. And clicked send. No explanation, no attachments, no signature. That single line said everything I needed it to. They didn't want me when I was quietly delivering 6-figure contracts. They wanted me now. After the system I built cracked beneath someone else's weight. But I wasn't a patch for their broken vessel. I was building something stronger, slower. Yes, but honest, grounded, mine. A few hours later, Ryan texted, Heard about Trent. You okay? I replied, More than okay. Then I stood up, stretched, and walked to the kitchen to refill my tea. My plants by the window were blooming again. The apartment smelled like lemon and eucalyptus. It was quiet, safe, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was proving anything to anyone. I was just living, not loud, not vengeful, just free. The sunlight poured through the window of my new office, catching in the steam from the mug beside me. Chamomile and mint. Simple, warm. I sat at my desk, answering emails from 3 new clients, 2 of them referrals from companies I'd never worked with before. Word was spreading. No ads, no website, no press release, just conversations, just trust. My workspace wasn't grand, just a small corner office in a co-working space downtown, with white walls, a corkboard full of sticky notes, and a tiny peace lily Ryan had sent with a card that said, Grow boldly. The walls didn't echo like the glass towers I once worked in. They absorbed everything gently, like the quiet was part of the structure. I'd built something, and it was growing. A soft knock came at the door. Ryan stepped in, dressed in his usual blazer no-tie look, grinning as he dropped a signed contract on my desk. Renewed through Q3. They're thrilled! I smiled and nodded, scanning the paperwork, checking the deliverables. Great. I'll start onboarding the new accounts this week. He paused before heading out. Oh, meant to tell you something. Might make you laugh. I raised an eyebrow. During negotiations, Northwood's CEO insisted on one non-negotiable clause. He said, and I quote, "Only if Brooke is listed as the project lead, no substitutions." I blinked. Wait, he made that a condition? He did, twice. Board signed off on it, said your name was the reason they stayed. For a moment, I couldn't speak. All those years of being the silent engine behind success, all those meetings where others took the credit, where my voice was filtered through someone else's confidence. Now, I was the condition, I was the deal breaker, and I didn't have to prove it. They already knew. I looked back at my computer, at the inbox steadily filling with names and questions and projects that now belonged entirely to me. Then I whispered, more to myself than anyone, they thought I was the cable. I was the bridge. Ryan didn't say anything. He just smiled and stepped out, leaving the door slightly ajar as I returned to work. This wasn't revenge. This was restoration. This was what happens when you hold steady through the storm and let your work speak long after the noise has faded. Sometimes the most powerful victories don't come with applause. They come with peace. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated, only to prove everyone wrong? Leave a comment, share with someone who needs to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us, you are more than what they see. You're the bridge they didn't know they were standing on.